So, sir, you have been involved in many things. If someone has never seen anything you've worked on, what is the first thing you want them watching and why?
If you ask me today, I'm gonna say Dashing Through the Snow, Steve. I hate to be that guy, but I'm gonna be honest because it's my most recent project. 'Tis the season. I got something to say with this. It's a movie where we've got, this Disney version of a truly inclusive, authentic Christmas movie that feels like and looks like, the world. I love that. It's got a character at its center that rejects a lot of the notions of traditional Christmas celebrations, but ultimately realizes that the true meaning of Christmas has nothing to do with the over commercialization and Santa suits and gifts and all that. It's really about those closest to you who mean the most. So I'd say this one because I think this movie's got something to say, and hopefully it's fun. And families, will be able to watch it together. And to me, that's the best kind of movie.
This is premiering on Disney Plus. As a producer, is it nice to not have to worry about opening weekend box office? Or is it one of those things that you enjoy?
That's a good question. The answer is I don't enjoy worrying about opening weekend box office, right? And I do worry like everybody worries. Anybody that's in the industry that's ever, premiered a film opening weekend that tells you that they're not a nervous wreck watching all the numbers come in is not being truthful. So I don't miss not having to worry about like the hour by hour report of how a project is doing. However, I like to be able to do both. I love Disney Plus as a platform. I love that audience and what Disney represents as a brand. So this is a really, really interesting foray for myself. And as a producer, I gotta be able to do both, Steven, right? I gotta be able to do, streaming as well as box office and create content for my audience in whatever medium they are consuming the content. So I'll be back doing theatrical releases, but this certainly won't be my last streaming release.
Oh, no, totally. Also, there has to be an element of, there might be more people that watch it on Disney Plus opening weekend that might have seen it opening weekend in the box office.
That is so true. That is something that, myself and a lot of my fellow filmmakers talk about, right? Like, what's your ultimate goal? Is it to make money, to make art, to get critical acclaim, to reach the widest amount of people, the biggest and broadest audience? And these days, streaming does unlock oftentimes the biggest audience. And so with a film like this, I want this to be seen by as many eyeballs as possible and the biggest audience possible. So that's why I think Disney Plus is perfect for it.
So I love talking about the editing process because it's where it all comes together. So for this particular project, how did the film change once you started screening it for friends and family? Or was it one of these things where it just worked?
No. It was definitely a process where it got honed. So when you see the final product, it's shorter. We definitely tightened the film. We knew that there were elements that we wanted to focus on more. For instance, there's a reindeer fight in the movie where Santa's reindeer allow the bad guys to have their comeuppance at their hoofs. I can't say their hands, but by their hoofs and antlers, and that's a fun scene. And audiences enjoyed it so much that we actually expanded it. So the final version of that scene is even meatier than it was in some previous versions. I think you have to listen to audiences. The process of making a film is so collaborative that you got a lot of different perspectives, but ultimately the perspective that really matters is the audience. So I'm not somebody that loathes test screenings and test audiences. I say bring it on. It doesn't mean that you have to be, a slave to that data. You don't have to be prescriptive in terms of whatever the test audience says is what you do. But I do think that it gives you some good real-time, real-world feedback. Because filmmakers sometimes can get in a bubble and only listen to other filmmakers or other folks that think like them. That's not the way I try to make movies.
The other problem is, and I'm friends with a lot of directors, and they say, they've watched it 1,000 times. You lose perspective on what's funny and what works because you need a new audience to tell you, oh yeah, don't don't change that. It still works.
Nothing could be more true. Absolutely. Sometimes you have to step away from it, especially as a director. But that's true of editors and producers and studio execs. You become very, very close to these films. By the time the audience sees Dashing Through the Snow, I will have seen it more times than I can remember. And that means I know the film very, very well, but it also means that I have a point of view that is shaded by the fact that I saw every iteration of it. So sometimes it's really good to have somebody that's coming in with a completely clean slate.
So I know you're always busy. Now that the strikes are over, what do you hope to be filming early next year? Or next year?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think what I have announced that I can safely. Here's what I will say. Now that the strikes are over, I had several projects that were like a lot of my peers in some version of limbo, that were waiting for a script to get completed or waiting for an actor to become available. Now everything can kind of recalibrate, and we're in the midst of having conversations around who will be available when. So I don't know exactly what I will be shooting and when next year, but I hope to be very busy next year because we had several things that were on the runway, and now that the work stoppages are over, we can get back to work.
The craziest thing I think about early next year is how many projects are going to get going and the scheduling of movie stars, and it's going to be insane trying to work that out.
Without a doubt. Because remember, Steve, you had all the projects that were going to go this year, which now have been pushed back into other projects' windows. So, if I have a project that was slated to go already in February of 24, well, that may not be possible because a project that was slated to go in July of 23, now that's been pushed into my window. Or in some instances, perhaps now that has to be pushed after my window, but it gets pushed into another window. So it really is a house of cards when you start moving around dates and actor availabilities. You know it better than most. But the reality is that that's part of my challenge as a producer, is figuring all that out.
Sir, I hope it's a huge hit for you. And good luck with the rest of your speed dating.
Thank you for your time, man. Always good to see you, Steve.